Bum bum. Bum bum. Donald Trump is a bad man.
Welcome to ASP Stuff Radio, the internet radio show that talks about all the hot, sizzling stuff you always wanted to know about, but were afraid to ask. Like, what happens when a pig gives birth to a human being? And how come we don't have human animals locked up in cages at the Cincinnati Zoo? I'm your host, Albert Roddle. Today is Friday, June 3rd. Joining me today this late evening are your beloved co-stars, Stevocrates and Polito. Welcome.
Welcome. Is it that late? Is it very late where all you folks are listening out there in Radioland?
It is late evening.
Well, see, in podcast terms, it doesn't matter. You listen as you please, whenever you want.
In any case, this is our season finale show.
This is the season finale?
Yeah.
It seems like this is the first time we've all been on the same podcast episode in a long time.
It's been a while. It's been too long. 2.5 weeks or so.
So when does the next season begin?
Tomorrow! No, in a couple, maybe 2 weeks. Now, the reason why we have
2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, give or so.
Más o menos.
Más o menos, man.
See, I gotta cut that out. Season or episode. This is episode.
What do you gotta cut out?
You probably offended somebody.
That's the whole point of the show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
No offenders.
That's right.
Okay. Clean cut.
Clean cutting out.
Keeping it clean. No talking about orange chicken.
No. 24 episodes, more or less each hour. So you can listen to an entire season of ASP Stuff Radio for an entire 24 hours.
So this is the 11 to 12 o'clock hour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you're still up, congratulations.
Get to week 52. That'll be a whole year's worth of listening.
If you're a truck driver, this would be perfect for you.
No, not really, because then they'd be wanting to hear about orange chicken. And then, truck drivers are way into orange chicken.
They like to eat their orange chicken
while they're driving.
And they like guns.
Yeah,
so they're definitely not listening to us.
Speaking of guns and orange chicken, I've been wanting to visit my home turf, Palo Seco, California / Redding. And I wanted to go with Stevocrates this summer. But I discovered Paul Leto just informed us that our friend Donald Trump is already there in Redding.
Well, he was there today.
He was there. It was a split second, I think, right?
I think he was on his way to Hawaii or something.
so Palo Seco or Redding was a little short stop.
Yeah,
along the way.
Dropped by in his private jet, landed at Redding Municipal Airport
I think
this afternoon.
His private jet went about 20 feet above Redding and then it took off again. But
just spent an hour or so there and talked in front of his avid supporters
about guns.
I'm sure that came up. Because Redding if you're a Republican, that's where you live in California.
It is the hot spot of Republican small cities.
Because whenever people think of California, they don't think of conservative, gun-toting, that sounds like the South, right?
Yeah.
But that's exactly what Redding is.
What was the nickname that we occasionally used? Is it Redneck Redding?
Redneck
I
Redding.
don't know if that caught on, but yeah.
Rodeo Redding.
Rodeo Redding.
They didn't the statewide rodeo take place in Redding or something?
They did have rodeos, but I don't think it was a statewide. Was it?
It's probably the rodeo capital of California.
Probably.
Could be. Yeah. So, but he didn't just stop by conservative cities. He stopped by San Jose. And,
was that today?
Probably yesterday.
Okay. So he's in California. And the reason why he's in California is because next week
is a primary voting for those who do the old-fashioned traditional let's go to the polling site thing.
I'm going to expose your location. Are you guys going to be voting?
Uh-oh.
Let's assume that you were living in California. California is pretty big.
It's a large state.
You could live anywhere in California.
Yeah.
So
it's hypothetically say it's Southern California.
And it's hot in southern this part of Southern California. It's burning. Feel the burn.
Almost like Arizona.
Yeah, but in Arizona they eat a lot of orange chicken.
So who are you going to vote for?
It's already done. It's a done deal because of a new technology called vote by mail.
Okay, so you got the. Well, I didn't get my mail-in ballot.
Are you sure
Everybody
you're
else
registered?
did.
I was registered.
Are you sure you're familiar with the voting process?
Pretty sure. Pretty sure.
So what happened? Halocrates.
I have no clue. I was registered as a libertarian, I think.
Did you Google how to vote?
For some reason, in order to vote, you have to either be Republican or Democrat.
True, but not necessarily.
So that seems a little.
At least in California, they have something called crossover voting.
Crossover, as in
Gender
voting.
No, it's not.
Transpartisan.
Transpartisan. Okay.
God,
you're a hybrid.
We're offending people left and right. Anyways, yes, there's crossover voting. It's where if you want to remain a nonpartisan registered voter, you can fill out a crossover ballot or a registration, I guess, and then if you do that, they'll send you that ballot as a crossover ballot, and you can say you're Democratic for that time for the primary, and then you're allowed to vote as a Democrat just for that one time. So it's a one-time thing.
So I shouldn't go register. So I'm currently registered as libertarian or maybe independent. I don't know. But I shouldn't just re-register as Democrat. You're saying I have to look for this?
You don't need to. I think in the general, i.e. presidential election, you don't need to do that. The only reason you would want to do that is because in a primary, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party have their own specific process that you have to do. So primaries are dedicated only to party affiliations. So you can't participate in something that's affiliated by a party if you're not one of them, right?
Because those are the only two options available.
Right. That's the system's slightly rigged.
So how did it work for your ballot? Were you able to actually vote on that mail-in ballot that you got for the other parties' candidates?
Yeah, you can vote for. No, you can't vote for the other party. So you have to claim that you're Democratic.
How did you do that?
So this is
technically speaking, I didn't do crossover voting. What I did was because I've actually recently moved within the past year, so I actually had to completely re-register at my current address. And when I did that, I just claimed I was a Democrat.
Oh, okay.
And,
so the way it worked, because I'm still registered as nonpartisan, so I'm not affiliated with any party. So I got my mail-in ballot, and first I got the information pamphlet, and that said that Republican Party won't let nonpartisan people vote for their primary. Green Party won't either, but Democrats, Libertarians, and one other party, I can't remember what it is, would allow nonpartisan voters to vote for their primary. So I waited, got my mail-in ballot, and I noticed on the ballot there's no primary candidates on it. So I was reading the information that came with the ballot, and it said, so in order to vote for the other candidates, the other parties, I would have to either just go to the polling place on election day and ask for, that party's ballot, or you'd have to go to the registrar office and swap your nonpartisan ballot for that party's ballot. or you have to like send an email or mail back your ballot with the form. So it's kind of a hassle to try to do that. So I didn't really, bother to do that. But I just sent it in with the nonpartisan ballot. But that was the only way that I could do that. So I'd have to actually go in and take action to try to get that ballot. But you can do it for certain parties.
So you still can't vote?
Only if I sent back my ballot or went to the office or went to the polling place on election day. That's the only way you can really do it. They won't just let you do it on any ballot. They'll only send you the nonpartisan ballot or the party that you're registered with.
Okay. Hey, can we pause for a second? My headphones are going crazy.
All right, we're going to pause. We'll take a little short break.
I think it's 104 degrees. Is everybody okay? If anyone is not feeling well, come up here. We have plenty of water to share. This is hot out. Good old Bernie. We love our Bernie, don't we? I wish these camera guys would spin it around. They're so dishonest. It's unbelievable. To see in 100 and something degrees out here, to have this number of people. Are we happy to be here? Oh, I like that cap. He's got the same cap I have on. Do you like that, right? Hunters. The NRA, this is the NRA. They gave me the endorsement. You saw that. They're great people. National Rifle Association, folks. We're going to protect your Second Amendment, believe me. We will protect your Second Amendment. I love you too. Nice guy over there. Big, strong guy. I love you, Trump, but I love you. Burning the American flag. And you know what they are? They're thugs. We're going to build the wall, folks. Don't even think about it. She's got a teleprompter here and there. You ever notice? Bum, 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 bum. Donald Trump is a bad man. Donald Trump has a bad tone. Bum, bum. Donald Trump is a bad man. Bum, bum. Donald Trump has a bad tone.
All right, I'm back.
So you were saying?
So Paul just finished talking about his, that you can't vote Democratic.
Yeah, only if I requested their special ballot.
And you got to go at the physical location to do that.
You either have to go to the physical location, or if I had done it in time, which is hard to do because mail is so slow, I would have had to mail back my ballot and wait to get the specific party's ballot.
So for me, I just maybe it was a blessing in disguise.
Hallelujah!
Because I had moved and all I had to do is re-register, and you can re-register online, the new technology.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brand new.
And then it was like a few days ago, I got the ballot in the mail, and then just as a Democrat, I could vote.
And did you vote for Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders?
I felt the burn.
You felt the burn.
Felt the burn.
Nice.
Who else was on the ballot?
Some random weird people. I don't know.
People that don't get any media coverage, basically.
There's actually like 6-7 other people, random people that want to be president.
They just have $0 in their bank account.
Yeah, I guess I could get the ballot if you want, and you could, if you want me to read them off.
No, that's
No, man, we don't care about those
even
people.
if you read them off, we'd have no idea who they are.
I can make up a name, and does it matter? No.
No,
Julio Sanchez.
Yeah.
But see, then there's other voting you have to do, right? The city council stuff and attorney general or something, rather. I don't know.
Yeah,
So-
we had a new state senator that we're voting for.
New state senator that I really just haven't time to research, but it lists out their professions and
There's 25 candidates.
based
Wow.
on their profession. Like there's prosecutors of murderers,
Math professor,
I'm gonna
sounds
vote.
nice.
I'm gonna vote.
janitor,
There were no philosophy.
No philosophers.
professors.
Well,
I would have voted.
welder,
Any-
long-time welder.
There was a welder versus a philosopher. So
Any
I voted
non-whites?
for the welder.
Non-white people, senator.
That's not a profession.
Actually, the favorite to win she's a half African American, half Asian American.
Oh, okay. I'm going to vote for her then.
And who would that be?
That was Kamala. I can't remember her
Kamala
last.
Harris.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I voted for her because she has a lot of money and she's on advertising.
She's the Democratic Party's candidate.
And who are you voting for, Paul? Is it a Democrat or a Republican?
For which race?
The human race.
I am for the human race. The human fund.
And what are we all racing against?
Speaking of humans or non-humans, we got gorillas and kids and zoos.
That sounds fun. That sounds like a fun day. This is like a zoo day for ASP radio.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the zoo. Fun day at the zoo.
You hear about
I
this?
think that makes me think of a good game for later, but
All
we'll
right.
talk about that later.
Okay.
All right.
Don't forget.
So this is this is at the Cincinnati Zoo and
Cincinnati Zoo. I found a clip of a brief summary of the incident.
incident
On the YouTube. I'll go ahead and play that.
What's going on, guys? For Complex News, I'm Speedy Mormon. A
What up?
4-year-old boy is safe and sound after he fell in the zoo enclosure that housed gorillas at the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Garden in Ohio yesterday. According to Zoo Director Thane Maynard, the boy went under the rail, through the wires, and over the moat wall.
Clever
and
boy.
fell into the animal's habitat. The gorilla dragged the boy around for 10 minutes, and a small portion of it was caught on camera.
Sounds like fun.
If you listen closely, you can hear the child's mother calling out to her son. Check it out. Harambe the gorilla, who was 17 years old, was shot and killed by one of the zoo's animal keepers. Zoo director Maynard also added, the child was not under attack, but all sorts of things could happen. He certainly was at risk. They made a tough choice, and they made the right choice because they saved that little boy's life. It could have been very bad. WLWT Cincinnati reports that a witness heard the boy tell his mother that he wanted to go into the water, to which she replied, quote, "No, you're not. No, you're not." Definitely an unfortunate situation all around, and I know y'all have some opinions on this, so sound off down below in the comments. For Complex...
Blah, 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 blah. Anyway,
Yo, what up? Sound deaf.
complex
You guys sound
situation.
pretty upbeat about that
Yeah,
story.
I know. Hey,
Cool.
well, I like it. It's different. It's not that regular annoying cadence that news reporters have. Today on Cincinnati Hall.
That's how all the news should be, with this hip hop music in
they
the
should-
background.
They need to change it up. A little kid got dragged all over the place by a gorilla.
And
Well-
then we did some beatbox.
Yeah. So, Steven, go ahead, tell the news. Ready? Go.
Yo, what up? What up? This is DJ Socrateo. Anyways,
Okay, you got the idea. Any comments about this?
Albert Alado thinks that they should have killed the boy.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know if we should have done that.
do you think it was the right decision to make to shoot and kill a gorilla that's been around longer than the human race, the human species?
Well, the gorilla itself hasn't been around that longer than the human species. The gorilla species has. But whoever it was it law enforcement or
The
the zookeeper?
zookeeper, security.
Zoo
whatever.
enforcement.
Yeah.
They had to make a tough choice.
Zoo police.
They couldn't. Now, I should clarify. They wanted to use tranquilizers, but they were afraid that it was going to take too long to put the gorilla to sleep. So they felt immediate action was required, and that was a kill. Shoot and kill the gorilla. Now, is that a fortunate outcome or an unfortunate?
It's an unfortunate outcome, but given the urgent, dire situation, they had to react. And so, if the gorilla had ripped the boy's head off, what do you think? Financially, liability wise, the zoo would be sued and they would go out of business.
So it was a sound financial decision.
Well, why don't they just place a fence, a wall, like Donald Trump, a Donald Trump wall that prevents kids from crawling through?
Now, NPR did have a talk about this particular article or situation.
They didn't have hip hop music in the background.
No. I don't do rap. Actually, I'm starting to sound like Ted Cruz. You are a blasphemer. Yeah. No, but one of the experts out there was saying when you are designing a zoo or trying to have an experience at the zoo, there's a balance between security and enjoying the environment that the animal is naturally lives in or naturally inhabits.
I don't think that's its natural environment.
Well,
living in a cage.
There's some I don't know, theme parks or wild animal parks where you're actually, there's no fences, right? You're not enclosed in a fence. I think in San Diego they have one, right?
Oh, Jurassic Park?
No, it's not Jurassic. No, it's a wild animal park. And you're actually, it's kind of like a safari. If you pay for the full package, you can have a Jeep drive and you could be with a guide and you can drive fairly close to some of the animals there. I think they have.
So you're aware of the danger. The possible danger.
There's possible danger.
You have to sign a waiver before you go on it.
But zoos don't have that, which I think they should.
Do not have that,
especially if they're not going to have a wall.
When you're thinking about a traditional zoo, like a cartoon zoo, you think of animals in a cage. Mm-hmm. That's not how all zoos are anymore these days, right? So there's various types of barriers, ways of keeping the animals separate from the human race. Mm-hmm. Now, in this particular situation, it sounded like it was just a railing. The boy just kind of went under the railing and snuck in. And the mom seemed to be paying a lot of attention, telling Tommy, no, Tommy, don't go under there. No.
She was looking at her iPhone.
Yeah, that's probably what happened. She was tweeting or doing a selfie. And then when she was doing that, little Tommy went right through.
No. So poor Yogi Gorilla gets shot and killed because this kid's mom was looking at her iPhone.
Mm-hmm. Now,
tweeting.
But if it was in your situation, if you had your kid and not your iPhone, but what if you just looked away real quick and then all of a sudden, the blink of an eye, your kid's out there with a gorilla?
Well, I think you'd want them to probably diffuse the situation as best as possible so that your little boy Tommy won't get hurt.
And that's because humans have more value than non-humans.
Right.
So, Alocrates, what would you want to have happened in the situation?
First of all, I would grab my kid's hand with my hand.
No.
I would not even allow.
You blinked. No, because kids are fast. Say you blinked. Okay. You blinked.
Well, I just answered your question.
And Tommy actually is the Flash. You helped give birth to this little Tommy boy, also known as Little Tommy Flash. And you blink, and he's in the gorilla's arms before you know it. So what would you want?
I would jump over the bar and wrestle the gorilla myself.
So you'd actually try to do something. Yeah. Grab the situation by the bullhorns.
Yeah. Or I would just say, you know what? My kid disobeyed me, and I think you should do what is necessary, zookeeper. If you think the gorilla has more value than my son, then go ahead and kill my son.
Whoa. But your son is the Flash.
The altruistic
That's the altruistic approach.
Or the one for the greater good.
Yeah. Or I would hold on, let me look up my philosophy, ethical theory books and figure out the moral dilemma.
Too late.
Write an argument, do a logic problem.
Tommy's head is ripped off. Too late.
I don't know. It's a tough situation, but I just don't like how
about just take the risk with a tranquilizer dart?
I would assume that in the 21st century, they would have these immediate tranquilizer.
Yeah, there's got to be let's just say there definitely is a better way of handling these situations, and they just haven't taken the time to think them through.
No, right, and I think they should. Hopefully this situation will shed some light.
It's just like, so in baseball, you know how they have the netting around the field for foul balls and broken bats that fly into the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
They're realizing that it's pretty dangerous if you're sitting like 50 feet away from home plate and a foul ball goes into the stand.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of taking that risk, they're starting to expand the netting so that it covers those more dangerous seats. So you have to think through that. I don't think the zoos have really thought through, what do we do if someone falls in the lion cage?
Because there's so many little kids, you know?
Because what you could do is probably have some type of security staff or whatever there at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could have some type of net that you can throw on the animal and keep the animal constrained while you get the kid out of there, and then shoot the dart at the animal. I think there's a lot of things you can do before you have to resort to, let's just shoot and kill the animal.
Yeah, but I think it really, at the moment, at the time, it was kind of too late. I mean, the gorilla had already grabbed Tommy.
Right. Well, that's what we're trying to figure out ways to prevent that from happening. I think you should have like bouncers, like they do at concerts, big, huge Bubba, you know, like a row of 5 big bouncers to prevent little idiot kids from crawling through bars.
But see, and I think the parent has to take some responsibility, because now they've ruined the whole enjoying the environment for everybody, at least at this particular facility. They're now not really going to have gorillas there anymore, or they'll just, they're going to build a huge concrete wall.
If you want to get rid of an animal, just jump into the cage.
Yeah.
And they'll shoot them all.
Well, I think, was it a week or two ago, that similar situation, but it was with a lion. A little kid fell through somehow. I think their parents just don't want their kids anymore. They use this as an excuse. I think that's a conspiracy. They're covering up the story.
Could be.
But
she probably pushed Tommy under the railing.
They shot and killed a lion.
That's why she was screaming. She was like, "No, don't shoot them!
No, shoot my kid! God damn it!
Pretend you missed. Pretend you missed.
That's the wrong primate."
Well, why don't we lock up human beings in zoos? We're animals.
Animals look at us.
Are we a sight to see?
Not
You could do that. You could go to
I don't think we're
county
a sight to
jail.
There you go.
What would happen there? If a gorilla jumps into a county jail cell with a human, who would they shoot?
Probably the the convict. Let's get into part 2 of the universe possibly being a simulation. Because in our previous episode, was it 2 weeks ago, we're talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson and his physicist colleagues discussing about the nature of the universe and whether or not we are living in a simulated universe.
Tonight's topic is the universe a computer simulation?
Smoker.
Something funny?
Yeah.
Huh?
Do you want it to be a computer simulation? I mean, this topic is...
Right. So he's already mocking the whole topic. So questions, why do you
So
why even there?
Was this all just a joke?
For him, it seemed like. But then, okay, so keep that in mind, and then you'll hear his response, which seems to contradict his mockery.
But the people there were serious about it, like
they were.
Zoria.
They're
Zoria?
all
What's her name?
Zuria.
Zoria, yeah.
There was one physicist who was skeptical, but she wasn't mocking the whole situation. She had some good reasonings and arguments against it. But let me give you a summary of the argument. So if it is in principle possible for us to somehow simulate a universe based on the various mathematical and physical laws of nature, then it's reasonable to assume that some species or whatever, perhaps some being more intelligent than us, that has already simulated a universe, namely our universe. So based on the assumption that our universe is infinitely vast, it would seem more likely that our universe is nothing more than a simulation.
And
Makes
so,
sense.
Okay.
So
So that's the summary of the argument.
Okay.
And some theoretical physicists have been trying to reconstruct the creation of the universe based on the laws of nature. Okay, so if we're capable of doing that in principle, then perhaps our universe itself is a simulation that was designed by simulators, an intelligent species of some sort. And then the last week or 2 weeks ago, we talked about the analogy between our universe being like a video game. And we talked about Mario Brothers, for example. Suppose Mario or Samus from Metroid is in his virtual reality, or Samus is a girl. She discovers that everything is mathematical in nature. She becomes aware that possibly she's living in a simulated universe. You know, obviously we are the programmers of Metroid, and in this case it would make sense that Samus is right into thinking that her universe is simulated. So therefore, by analogy, someone designed a sophisticated algorithm which brought into existence our universe, a simulated universe. So that was.
So they're asking the question: how do you make them jump? Which button is it?
How do you make this person shut the hell up?
How do you make me jump? Or am I consciously making the decision to jump, or is somebody deciding that for me?
Yeah. So do we have free will? That's another topic that's somewhat related.
So that's now analogous to Samus saying that I think I'm making myself jump, but is maybe somebody making
maybe someone programmed me to jump and to do all these weird things and fight these monsters or creatures. So I'm going to continue from there, and I have several clips from different panelists or people participating in the debate. So the next one is by the philosopher David Chalmers, and he mentions how the simulation hypothesis is very similar to a classic idea from René Descartes.
Now, we couldn't have a panel without a philosopher, David. We needed some philosophical...
I know how you love philosophers, Neil.
It's a joke.
I'm on record for some comments about philosophers that got him a little ticked off. But anyhow, so David, what do you philosophers have been at this for a while, yourself included. So how do you see all of this happening or fitting in to the worldview?
Well, philosophers like to ask the big questions about the world, the foundational questions, and this is one of them, you know. Actually, I blame Isaac Asimov for all this, at least in my case. I got into thinking about these big questions. When I was a kid, I read just about everything that Asimov was writing, not just the science fiction, but the science fact.
When I was a kid, I was reading Berenstain Bears.
The history, the detective novels. I read the multiple volumes of his autobiography. But throughout Asimov's work, this was a guy that was just interested in the big questions about the nature of reality at all levels. And that ultimately drove me to think about questions about consciousness and the mind, which I could approach as a philosopher, because philosophy allows you to kind of step back and say, what is the science here telling us? But this question about the simulation corresponds to another of the great questions of philosophy, which is basically, how do we know anything about the external world at all? And René Descartes said, how do you know you're not being fooled by an evil genius into having an impression of this world around us, even though none of it really exists? Well, the contemporary version of that question is, how do you know you're not in a simulation like the Matrix, in which case, allegedly, none of this really exists? And to me, that question is just extremely interesting, because it seems nothing we could know could rule out the hypothesis that we're in a simulation. But you also want to think about what follows. Some people think if we're in a simulation, then none of this is real. I think if you adopt the kind of perspective which, say, Max was suggesting a second ago, where the universe is all mathematical or informational, this allows us to reorient our attitude to this question, saying, okay, maybe we're in a simulation, but if we are, all this is perfectly real, because all the information is there in the simulation, all the math is there, all the structure is there in the simulation. So I'd say, well, maybe we're in a simulation, maybe we're not, but if we are, hey, it's not so bad.
If I do this, you feel that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That.
So that's real. That was a real punch. Yeah.
That was a real punch. I really want to hit that philosopher.
He probably tried as hard as he could. It was just such a weak punch.
Bunk.
I don't think any of these guys are taking philosophers seriously. But yeah, I think most of the audience out there has seen The Matrix.
Right. This is a contemporary version of the Matrix, and of course,
Yeah.
Descartes'
So
idea.
Rene Descartes had the old version.
Yeah.
But he started with Isaac Asimov, not Rene Descartes.
No, because Asimov was... So Descartes was a 16th century philosopher, and Asimov was much later.
He was the last century. He was not 20th century. I think he's still alive, but that's about 300 years difference. 400. I'm sure it's not that new.
Yeah. So it's an old idea in many different forms. So the simulation...
It's definitely quite possible, right? We could... all of us could still be in the Matrix, locked into the Matrix.
So I guess the question he was raising is whether or not we can prove that we are not living in a simulation or the Matrix. Is there any
We can't.
Is there any way that was there any way possible that would allow us to say, hey, there's proof right there that we're not in the Matrix?
Just give a high squeally laugh.
No, because that could be part of the Matrix.
To free your mind.
Yeah, take the blue pill.
How? So that's a difficult question. Now,
There's no way that you can prove that this is not a simulation.
because no matter what feature you come up with, no matter how unique that feature is, that could be part of the simulation.
The only thing I would argue against it is who has the time to create this as a simulation? Who would
Yeah,
bother? And why would they create
The
such
Lord.
little details
The Lord,
like
the Lord would be
bacteria and I don't know.
And the
even
gorilla incident. Why would they
gorilla,
program
yeah,
that
like,
into? Why?
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
What's the point?
What is
all
the point?
part of somebody's crazy game.
They must be young 5-year-old kids who created this simulation.
Yeah, I don't understand it. That's what doesn't make. I think that's the one way to prove that it's not a simulation is just the fact that there's so many strange things that really don't make any sense.
But that's why the genius
Well,
is evil.
Let's go back to the
evil genius.
Let's go back to Samus and Metroid, or even Mario. Mario's because a lot of people don't know who Samus is. I don't know. So Mario's breaking bricks and stepping on mushrooms,
Eating
mushrooms, stomping on Goombas and tortoises.
Druggy.
He's probably wondering, okay, why would this? I know I'm not in a simulation or video game because look at all this. What am I doing? There's crazy weird things going on. There's
what am I doing this for?
To him, it's normal.
To him, it's
and
normal.
Plus, Mario can't really think.
That's true.
But if he could, in his mind, his world is pretty straightforward. You move left, or it's left to right.
2-dimensional.
You jump on the turtle, you jump on the Goomba. You're going after Bowser.
No,
It's pretty
but
straightforward.
if he was conscious, or if he had a free will, he would be thinking that when he's jumping on this Goomba, he wants to do that. In his head, he's thinking, right? This is what I need to do. This is my mission. That is my job, to jump on this Goomba to eat like a druggy mushroom.
So Mario thinks that
He
he's
thinks
conscious.
this is all what he wants to do. But so until he kind of steps out of the box and is like, do I really want to eat this mushroom today? I don't know. I mean, just like us, we go to work, like we're locked in the Matrix. We go and try to make money. We question ourselves: do we really need to make money? Do we really need to get up today? Aren't we thinking that?
Yeah. Yes.
But so do we really? And that's that philosophical question. Those damn philosophers. Do we really have our own free will to determine that, or is this just some algorithm that makes us feel like we really want to do
well,
that?
if we are truly in a simulation, then I don't think there is any room for free will because we're just acting in accordance to code.
And
or
in
laws.
any event, like maybe Elon Musk himself, ignorance is bliss, and why even argue about it? Because the simulation is so good. Why should it matter?
Yeah, well, that was the other point that David Chalmers was making. He says, okay, well, first, we can't. It's very difficult to come up with a criterion that would allow us to make the distinction between the real world and a simulated world. And second, even if we are in a simulation, we take it to be real, so why not just enjoy it?
Yeah. And maybe one day...
Well, because if it
they'll
is a
want-
simulation, you'd want whoever's controlling it to make it a little better.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true. So that's a good question. So if we are in a simulation,
Just tweak the settings. Go to the settings menu.
upgrade.
Do a Windows upgrade.
We're due for an upgrade.
So yeah, just do a Windows update, and then reboot and take 20 minutes,
Well,
20 damn minutes.
There has to be upgrades because look, as Elon Musk mentions, in the past 40 years, video games have advanced in technology. We went from Pong to StarCraft and other.
For two lines and a little dot. Right?
So certainly the simulators can do an upgrade in our video game. Why not? Or maybe they just did. And this.
Well, they did when they went from, microorganisms to more complex life forms.
There you go.
And dinosaurs, and they got bored of dinosaurs.
So they wiped them
killed
out.
I prefer to think that the great computer programmer or the omnipotent one who simulated this whole thing, they made it so that we have to advance so far in our consciousness or our evolution that we will find out that it was in fact this we'll finally meet this omnipotent person, and he'll say, yes, game over, you have won the game. Like in Mario, you get to World 8-4 and you beat Bowser and you win. And
yeah, but does Mario did Mario come to meet us?
Not Mario. It would be,
by analogy.
Didn't Mr. Miyamoto, who's the creator, he sent a good job.
Shigeru. Mario never got to meet.
He never met him.
The architect.
Yeah.
Well,
so your argument is flawed. Your argument, because Mario hasn't yet met his creator, there's no guarantee that we will meet our creator either.
No, but you
got zib-zabbed.
I guess so.
All right, we gotta move.
And then one little comment here about Bill Nye, the crazy guy.
Oh man, why are you gonna bring that douchebag up again?
Yeah. So the ping pong.
By the way, can I interject? Can you hold that thought real quick? So after Paul and I first mentioned Bill Nye, there was this death hoax. You know how there's death hoax with celebrities?
Yeah.
Bill Nye was supposedly claimed to have been dead.
What?
Within 2-3 days when we were talking about Bill Nye.
Yeah, it's weird because he was doing a lot of media appearances around that time. He actually was on MLB Network that week.
What? Really?
Yeah.
What?
And he was talking about physics of baseball, like in Coors Field, and he's being very condescending to their questions because they were asking what makes the ball travel farther there, and he's like, "Well, it's easy. It's simple physics. The air's lighter." So
go back to physics high school. Stop being a meathead.
So maybe somebody got upset there and bashed him with a baseball bat.
And then then he pretended to die off for a little bit.
Somehow
frustrated.
Someone was pissed off at him and tweeted that he died. And there's an actual
maybe one of our listeners,
a philosopher, got mad. Anyways, going back to your point. Sorry.
Yeah. So he has this weird ping pong ball analogy. I guess our planet is a ping pong ball, or other planets are. Is that what he said?
Yeah, that we're living on a giant ping pong table or something.
So Earth is a ping pong ball, I guess.
We are all living on a ping pong ball.
But if you ask theoretical physicists, there is something known as the multiverse.
Yeah.
We no longer live in a universe. In fact, there are multiple universes or multiple verses.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they go in and out of creation. So we are currently in a universe that's in creation, and once it started with a big bang, and it kind of bubbled up, and then eventually it'll either collapse or keep expanding. Mm-hmm. And as these bubbles kind of crash into each other or morph into each other, you create an and I guess destroy at the same time other universes. So in a way, we might not be in a giant ping pong ball, but we're definitely in this bubble verse. I mean, you go on YouTube multiverse, and you'll learn all about what is actually going on in reality.
I can't even wrap my mind around one universe.
Yeah, but
So
it's not a universe of ping pong balls. It's actually a multiverse of bubbles.
So each universe is a ping pong ball.
Yeah. You could kind of more like bubbles, I think.
Ping pong bubble.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
And in fact, the way you get from one bubble to the other bubble is through a wormhole or through a singularity or through a black hole, where time and space become one.
And this is all a simulation. The whole thing is.
I don't know if it's necessarily a simulation, but it is. That's quite possible that these are our universes of one bubble in a verse of many bubbles. Bubble.
Now the next clip is from I think his name is Jim, and he tries to bring in some religious aspect into the conversation, which I think is really interesting. How you can interpret the simulation hypothesis to accommodate religious beliefs.
And so one of the first non-physicists that I talked to, or that I read reflected on my comment, said effectively, and this is not exact words, but effectively he said, if the simulation hypothesis is valid, then we open the door to eternal life and resurrection and things that formerly have been discussed in the realm of religion. And the reason is really quite simple, because if you think about a computer, if we are a simulation, then we're like programs in a computer. As long as I have a computer that's not damaged, I can always rerun the program, right? So if you really believe that we are in a simulation and there's some structure that runs that simulation, unless something damages that structure, then we can be repurposed. And so it starts to break down a very funny barrier between what people often think is the conflict between science and the conflict between faith.
So what you're saying is that if we are simulated, that means there's a code that's doing it, and that code was started at some point, and in principle, it could just be rebooted, and then all of this would happen exactly the way it happened before, because it's running the same computer program.
If one accepts the simulation hypothesis as an accurate description of nature.
I would say that's a useless exercise. What would be more interesting is to actually...
The word was useless, Jim, in case you missed that. Okay, you heard that. Okay. Emphasis on useless exercise. Go, Zahore.
Okay, so you could tell the Gross
useless
is just an idiot.
That's a harsh word.
Yeah.
It's pretty much rip apart his whole...
Why was Zoria saying it's useless?
Well, she wants to make the argument that you can have a simulation without a simulator. What?
By the way, Morgan Freeman is the omnipotent one here. If you go watch Through the Wormhole, he gets into there's actually multiple selves of yourself in existence right now, just going through different situations. Somewhere out there in the multiverse. So maybe there's some point something to his argument where maybe not necessarily you're rebooting the program, but at the same time you are living multiple realities.
Now I thought what he said was interesting, because the idea that he's talking about can be traced back, well, minus the computer simulation part, but the underlying idea can be traced back to what's called the doctrine of eternal recurrence, which is an ancient Indian philosophy. Eternal return states that your life has been lived before infinitely many times and will occur infinitely many times in the future. So your life right now is really a life that you once lived in the past. So it actually supports this simulation hypothesis and, of course, traditional religious views.
Known as reincarnation?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, the idea of you can use reincarnation as well. But yeah, you die in the video game. You know, you live as Stevocrates, you die, and then you reboot into a butterfly.
Is that a good life to be a butterfly?
But the point is, you're living infinite lives, and you don't essentially cease to exist. You're always existing, but in just different ways, different modes of existence.
Okay. Well, I guess if you take it a step further, if you were kind of didn't live a very good life, you become reincarnated as something that's not so pleasant.
Lower,
maybe like a fly or something.
A dung beetle.
A dung beetle.
That's just as bad as it gets.
What's wrong with the dung beetle?
You're kind of on dung all the time. Right?
At least you're not the dung itself.
Well, it has to be don't you have to be reincarnated as a living organism?
Shit isn't living. It's not living.
Not.
It's not alive.
The bacteria within
bacteria is living.
Dung.
That's probably worse.
Yeah. Would you rather be
dung bacteria?
Worse.
Okay. So yeah. So Zoria was.
That's a useless.
Yeah.
That's useless.
Useless.
But that's useless.
Because I'm a scientist and I'm a poppycock, arrogant prick.
Emphasis on the useless.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on. So part 5. So David Chalmers explains why we cannot prove that we are not living in a simulation.
But David, what do your philosophical circles say about proposing an experiment that might falsify these ideas?
Look, I don't think you're going to get conclusive experimental proof that we're certainly not going to get conclusive experimental proof that you're not in a simulation. I suppose we could get some kind of very strong...
Well, why not? You just declared something. Why can't a clever person come along and...
Because any evidence that we could ever get could be simulated. That's basically the reason. I'm sorry. Maybe...
Okay, so if I find evidence that we're not simulated, the great simulator...
They could have just planted that for you.
Put that in.
Yeah, they were one step ahead.
So, Cocoa for Cuckoo Puffs.
It's the Hillary Clinton dog bark.
Wait, he's not a teddy bear, he's a cuckoo bird, right?
Cuckoo bird. So I think we mentioned this already. It's impossible to come up with any kind of evidence, rational or empirical evidence, to say we're not living in a simulated universe, because that could just be part of the algorithm.
Right. There's no way that you can prove that this is not a simulation.
Okay.
So just like Mario,
he says Mario,
might be able to kind of feel like he doesn't feel like breaking these bricks, but he does so anyways. He can never kind of it's like, I think I want to break the bricks and I'm going to go ahead and do it, but is that somebody really making me do it? I don't know. Same with us, right?
Well,
how's he going to prove that?
Yeah, and if the simulator, if we're all of a sudden thinking, oh, maybe we're living in a simulation, that's the only reason we're thinking that is because the simulator wants us to think that.
Yeah, so the simulator programmed the thought of us to think that we are, 1, part of a simulation, and 2, to come up with ways to think that we're not in a simulation.
But then you would think maybe that's enough proof to say that we're not in a simulation, because why would the simulator want us to think that we're in a simulation?
And that's a good point. Why even allow for us to discover the possibility that we're not truly real?
Right. They would hit the erase button and reprogram everything right now.
Yeah, because it's theoretical. It's possible for us to discover the underlying structure of the code. And
now isn't technically this all semantics? Because couldn't we just might as well say there's a greater being out there that has a purpose for us and is trying for us to do something?
Maybe. Okay.
I think it's only...
Can we just call that... We'll just call it a simulation or a greater being? I don't know. What do you want?
The only way that this could be a simulation is if the simulator eventually wants us to find out that it is a simulation. It's like the Truman Show. Maybe they originally didn't want us to know, but then once they start seeing that you start to figure out that it is a simulation, then they just kind of roll with it, and they can't help but let you discover it.
Sounds like you're describing the government.
Could be.
The government is the simulator.
Maybe.
The manufacturer of our so-called reality.
The Rockefellers.
Yeah. Now, the next clip leads to religion again.
Jim, is there any functional difference at all between admitting that we live in a computer simulation and saying that that's basically a secular God? What's the difference?
Well, first of all, I've decided my name should be Morpheus, not Jim.
Okay. Well,
I'm Mario. Nice to meet you, Morpheus.
Morpheus. Yes. You have to see the movie Matrix and play video games to follow the conversation at this moment.
But
Morpheus.
But as I said, for non-scientists, because I'm going to make this partition, I think
sounds
for
like Ben Carson.
non-scientists, an acceptance
You're right,
of
yeah.
the simulation hypothesis as an accurate view of our universe
He is black.
equivalent, I believe, to the notion of a deity. I don't understand how for non-scientists you can make that distinction. For scientists, however, we are rather secular. The definition of science is actually a secular definition. And in fact, it's the definition that comes to us from Galileo. Einstein quotes Galileo as being the father of all science because Galileo, and this is Einstein's words, drums into us that contemplation alone, without observation of nature, is totally useless in trying to come up with an accurate view of nature. So it's the ability of us, our human ability to observe the universe that actually defines science. So if you can't give me something that I can observe, I don't know how to do science.
Okay, so what you're saying is that if in fact there is a programmer who would be philosophically equivalent to a creator and you can't observe them, they're just outside the realm of science.
I think that's a definition.
Now, okay, so my beef with that is if it doesn't make sense to talk about a simulator or programmer because it falls outside the realm of science, because scientists only work with observational data, then how is it possible to have a simulation without a simulator? Right? If you're going to talk about simulations, obviously you would need to talk about simulators. Right? If there are programmers for video games, then surely there is at least one programmer for our so-called universe game.
Just say what again?
Well, what he was saying, or so he does it make sense to talk about a non-secular deity or simulator? If you're going to talk about simulations, so there's the universe, and if the universe is a simulation, then does it make sense to talk about a quote-unquote programmer or simulator in the sense of an omnipotent deity? Can we conclude that such a being exists? And he says no, because that falls outside the realm of science. Science only deals with what is observable, what we can experience. We can only experience the universe, mathematical laws, the laws of nature, but we cannot conclude, that there's a God.
Yeah, I mean, unless the simulation is just happened on its own.
Right, and I think that's what the other lady, when she said, oh, it's useless to talk about eternal life and creators and simulators, why can't there be just simulations? The universe just existed on its own, and then it created this simulation based on the mathematical laws and laws of nature. But
there has to be a cognitive being behind a simulation. You can't just have a simulation on its own.
Exactly. I agree, because if you're going to use the game analogy, we're conscious, we're creators, we came up with coding that allowed to bring it into existence Super Mario Brothers, Metroid, and so on and so forth. So by analogy, if this is a simulation or a computer game, or however you want to call it, then by analogy, to make it legit, it would make sense to conclude that there is a simulator.
So that's the difference between an atheist and somebody who's theistic. Right?
I don't think it even matters, because the logic.
It might not matter, but I think what Zoria's point is that the universe just happens, okay, and there is no simulator.
Yeah, then it's not a simulation.
Yeah,
you can't say it's either a simulation with a creator or it's not a simulation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can't have both. You can't say it's a simulation and there's nothing behind it.
Right. And there's the other religion called deism. Anyone familiar with deism? DEISM. So you don't even need to. So it's possible that you have an impersonal. So deists believe in a God, but it's not a personal God. It's obviously intelligent enough to create the universe, but it's not all loving or all caring or all personal. This is a solution to the problem of evil. The reason why
it's
there's
like an apathetic
creator. Apathetic creator, which
it's on TV in the background. We're just kind of just on while it's sleeping.
The being created the universe and then decided to
set it and forget it.
Set it and forget
Set it and forget it.
Wow.
So at least these scientists can entertain that idea, at the very least, a non-personal God, but they wouldn't even allow that.
Maybe at some point there was someone behind it, and then the artificial intelligence took over, like the Matrix. Maybe now it's just this,
the machine
vast wasteland of artificial robots that don't really think.
Interesting.
But that's useless.
That's useless talk.
Poppycock.
There were a couple other clips, but let's just get to the final bit.
Yeah, we're running long.
We're running long. We are running.
Okay, so the final answer. This is kind of a long clip, 3-minute clip. Tyson concludes the discussion and he asks all the panelists, what is the likelihood that we live in a simulated universe?
Let me just end before we transition to Q&A. I want to get the likelihood that you think we are in a simulation. 10% chance, 20%. What? Just give me a number. Just a number. Go.
I can't give you that number. I don't have any evidence.
She's not authorized to divulge that information. Okay, so you give a no answer. Max?
17%.
17%? Jim? Morpheus?
1%.
1% chance.
I'm going with effectively 0.
Effectively 0. David?
42%.
Oh, geez.
So I think the likelihood may be very high. And my evidence for it is it's a thought experiment. And it's simple. We'll just end with this reflection. And I'm elsewhere, like on YouTube, saying this, so you can check it out again later if you choose. I just think when I look at what we measure to be our own intelligence, and we tend to think highly of it. Getting back to Jim's point, there's a certain hubris just even in how we think about our relationship to the world. And it's understandable, perhaps, even in the search for intelligent life in the universe. It comes with the assumption that we will find life that also thinks we are intelligent. Well, if we look at other life forms on Earth with whom we have DNA in common, there is none that we would rank ever in the history of the fossil record or life thriving today that we would rank with us and our level of intelligence. So given our definitions, we're the only intelligent species there ever was, because we have poetry and philosophy and music and art. And then I thought to myself, well, if the chimpanzee has 98% identical DNA to us, pick any animal, doesn't matter, dogs, doesn't matter. Mammals have very close DNA to us. They cannot do trigonometry. Some people can't do trigonometry, certainly not these animals. So if they cannot do trigonometry, and they have such close genetic identity to us, let's take that same gap and put it beyond us and find some life form that is that much beyond us that we are beyond the dog or the chimp. What would we look like to them? We would be drooling, blithering idiots in their presence. The smartest chimp can do maybe some sign language and stack boxes and reach a banana, put up an umbrella.
Run for president.
Like our toddlers can do. Our toddlers do that. So maybe the smartest human, you can bring Stephen Hawking forward in front of this other species, and they're chuckling because they'll say, oh, this happens to be the smartest human, because he He's slightly smarter than the rest because he can do astrophysics calculations in his head, like little Timmy over here. Oh, you're back from preschool. Oh, you just composed a symphony. That's so beautiful. Let's put it on the refrigerator door. Or you just derived all the principles of Oh, that's cute. And so that is not a stretch to think about. And if that's the case, it is easy for me to imagine that everything in our lives is just the creation of some other entity for their entertainment. It is easy for me to think that. So whatever the likelihood is, 0%, 1%, 17, 42, no answer. I'm saying the day we learn that it is true, I will be the only one in the room saying, I'm not surprised. Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank the panel.
What a douchebag.
I don't think he'd be the only one, but yeah, he can drop the mic.
What an arrogant prick.
Drop the mic. Yeah. It was a all game. Maybe he's the simulator.
I think he is a simulator. So he mocks the whole discussion. At the very beginning, he laughs at it. He scoffs at people's remarks. And then he has the audacity to say, well, yeah, I think it's very likely that we live in a simulation and that there is a being. I was like really blown away. Are you serious? I was expecting like a skeptical, negative response to this question. But
yeah, I don't know about that. It was just a whole egotistical trip.
The whole
just
time.
To make him, yeah. He is the simulator.
Yeah.
Just mocking everybody.
Mm-hmm. And even if we take him seriously, his response is problematic. It, one, contradicts the theory of evolution. And two, just because it's easy for you to think that it's possible doesn't make it possible. It's easy for me to think that purple unicorns with wings exist. Therefore, purple unicorns with wings exist. It's easy for me to think about it.
Yeah, but I think you do make a point about evolution, because you have to, before you can get to that advanced, primates evolved into humans, and humans next step evolved into something else. So
yeah.
The evil genius does not precede the human, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't go in reverse.
Right. So
we're not devolving, we're evolving.
We're evolving.
But this is the simulation that they created. So they probably already went through that evolution, and then they just recreated it in this simulation that we're living in.
So then thus we're reliving, we're rebooting the program or something.
So yeah, maybe they're trying to retract their history.
Okay. So then
watch it all over again.
So then Tyson stands correct. So he's correct then.
So he but he didn't say that. He didn't say that.
Well, if he put it the way Paul,
easy for him to think.
So
he's
we should play the little trick on him. We should go through this whole thing with him.
I'm gonna send De Grace Tyson this episode. I'm gonna send it directly to him.
But how come in that show, how come in the Cosmos show, DeGrasse sounds more like this, and he sounds calm and like a teddy bear, but in that particular show, he was evil
and cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. All right, any last words about simulation?
I don't feel like dropping the mic on this.
Now, there was some comments made by Elon Musk a couple days ago, but we could talk about that some other time.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about a moron like him.
Yeah,
we touched on it.
We were blessed with the great mind of Neil deGrasse Tyson. Why taint it? Other minds?
With the real life Iron Man.
Okay, so we're gonna play a game, a silly game, inspired by a comment or a suggestion for what we should do for season 2 of ASP Stuff Radio. This suggestion came from someone by the name of Shihan Olsen from Sri Lanka. And he says...
Shihan?
Shihan Olsen.
Shihan.
I'm sorry
Shihan Olsen.
Shihan Olsen, like the Olsen twins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Shihan says... I have idea for new format for your show for season 2. At the beginning of your show, have a game called Guess That Duck. Either one of you can play different quack sounds, and an expert on ducks can call in and guess the correct duck that made that duck quack sound.
All right. Interesting.
So, all right. Thank
wouldn't
you.
have been my first guess at a game, but
Thank you, Shahan, for that suggestion.
Shihan is obsessed with ducks.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Shihan. I was inspired by Shihan's suggestion that I created my own game called Guess That Politician. Okay. Instead of animals, we're going to use politicians. So I'm going to play several clips. It's either Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders, or Hillary Clinton. Now, I modified the voices, okay? So I'm trying to make it indistinguishable. I'll play the distorted version, and then I'll play the original. So who would like to play first?
I'll go.
Okay. I'm going to play... All right.
The vast majority of the American people are not happy with these vicious attacks. The vast majority of the American people are not happy with these vicious attacks.
All right, Steven. Guess that politician!
This is Testes Clinton.
Testes Clinton. Paul, do you want to disagree or agree?
what was this creature saying?
The vast majority of American people are not
happy
with these vicious attacks.
Oh, okay.
So Steven says Clinton.
I say Clinton.
Okay, so you agree.
Mm-hmm.
This is difficult.
All right, so I'm going to play the original.
The vast majority of the American people are not happy with these vicious attacks. That the vast majority of the American people are not happy with these vicious attacks.
How the hell?
Bernie Sanders.
Jeez, we got to do one for you. That's not fair.
Well,
you created Bernie Sanders into an alien.
Yeah, I removed his ball sack. So physically.
All
right. So you were wrong.
All right, Paul. Okay. I guess you Paulato.
All right, I'm going to play the second clip.
We have to get our country back to work. We don't have any jobs, and I can do it. Believe me, that's what I do best. We have to get our country back to work. We don't have any jobs, and I can do it. Believe me, that's what I do best.
All right.
That's Donald Trump.
Okay. Steven? You want to agree or disagree?
I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Orange chicken.
Let's see.
We have to get our country back to work. We don't have any jobs, and I can do it.
Jobs.
Believe me, that's what I do best.
Jobs.
Yeah, I gave it away.
Yeah.
I gave it away.
Inflection. Jobs.
That's all he talks about. Jobs.
Okay, so let's do one more.
Who's this for?
I guess me. No,
all right.
No. Whoever wants to guess.
Well, first of all, people have voted for me overwhelmingly. Well, first of all, people have voted for me overwhelmingly.
All right.
Wait, is this a new candidate, altered. Right? That's not altered.
It's altered.
That's a human, because the first one was an alien. The second one
was an alien.
Was another species of alien.
Uh-huh.
This one sounded like a human being.
Well, first of all, people have voted for me overwhelmingly.
Clinton, Trump, or Sanders?
This is probably Clinton with a ball sack.
So okay, let's listen. Paul,
so
what do you
added one? So you removed one from.
This is her real voice.
All right, let's listen to the original.
Well, first of all, people have voted for me overwhelmingly.
It's Hillary Clinton.
So you remove one ball sack.
I gave her 5 ball sacks.
And you put it in the other.
And this is what you get.
People have voted for me overwhelmingly.
Sounds like a man.
Yeah, that sounds like a man.
Yeah. So Hillary Clinton, you guessed correctly.
Jeez. But the first two were definitely aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we got to do one for you.
Well, do you have a game for me?
My game for you is if you had to push one candidate into the gorilla pit, what of those 3, which one would it be?
Well, naturally, it would have to be Donald Trump. I would
Why?
because I want to see the gorilla pull off his toupee and shove it in his mouth, and then tear off his limb one by one.
Well, how about this question? Who would win between the fight between Trump and the gorilla?
Does Trump have any weapons?
Other than his obnoxious voice and
Yeah.
hairy toupee?
Yeah.
No.
No. He could rip off his face. The gorilla, that is. So you got to watch out for that and start chewing on it because of the orange chicken scent that he.
I think that the Trump porters would come and back him up.
I could
They'd all shoot the gorilla.
But I could see Trump running around the gorilla really quick and then jumping on top of him and then putting his
and becoming
hands.
a gorilla himself.
But one swipe against Trump and that's it. That is over. Buy, sell, or hold. We should make baseball a lot quicker. Speed up the process of baseball.
Sell.
Sell? Why?
Sell. I don't think there's a time problem with baseball.
You don't think it's too long?
Nah. People that enjoy the game, the length of the game should be a good thing if you enjoy the game.
But people with short attention spans because of social media.
Because they're gorillas? They have short attention spans?
They wouldn't be able to sit through a whole 3-hour game.
Then don't watch baseball.
Okay.
Baseball's not for you.
All right. Paul, buy, sell, or hold. Speed up the process of baseball.
Sell.
Sell. And why?
Because they're just catering to short attention spans.
Okay.
People that can't pay attention to anything, they're just giving into that. And we're just going to become worse for it. Like, what's the point of getting rid of the 4 balls that you have to throw for the intentional walk?
Yeah.
Because that's what they're going to do next year.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They're going to say, okay, you put up 4 fingers, the batter automatically goes to first. You don't have to throw those pitches
balls.
outside. And that's
No,
just-
that one doesn't make sense because I've seen wild pitches.
Yeah, I actually enjoy it. I
think it actually came into play in one of the Giants' playoff games.
Wow.
A couple years ago. But yeah, that's what they're going to do. It's all just to speed up the game and
just to cater to the millennials with short attention spans and their
who aren't watching
Instagram
baseball
accounts.
anyway. They're watching basketball and football, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where we're going. Anything to shorten the game. They might as well just say, okay, let's just play 5-inning games.
Yeah.
Just go for that.
Well, hopefully I won't be around when that happens.
It's coming.
All right, so this has been a packed episode concluding season 1 of ASP Stuff Radio.
Like 2 hours long.
2 hours to make up for the last 2.5 weeks.
This is longer than a baseball game.
This
is longer than
shorten ASP stuff.
Yeah, got to cut some stuff out. All right, so last minute words, inarticulate sounds you like to make or whatever.
Don't vote for orange chicken.
Don't vote for orange chicken during the California primaries. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's good advice.
No orange chicken.
And don't fall into a cage
with a gorilla.
Yeah, don't crawl through a bar.
And don't fall into a black hole into a simulated universe.
You might be simulated universe.
Next week we'll talk about cats.
2 hours.
2 hours worth of cats. That's it. Guess that cat. This is ASP Stuff Radio signing off with all that gorilla dander in my lungs. We are all stuffed up.
Bum bum, bum bum, bum bum. Donald Trump is a bad man. Donald Trump has a bad tone. Bum bum, bum bum, bum bum.
It is easy for me to imagine that everything in our lives is just the creation of some other entity for their entertainment. It is easy for me to think that. So whatever the likelihood is, 0%, 1%, 1742, no answer. I'm saying the day we learn that it is true, I will be the only one in the room saying, I'm not surprised.
Donald Trump is a bad man.